you ever draw from imagination. Never draw from imagination.
Developing your own style.
Hello, I'm Blue, and today I'll be talking about art style again.
Change your style.
How do I find my art style? How do you find your art
Step-by-step
style?
roadmap on how you're building
What
yourself
happens
your
if
own
you try
art
to
style.
paint in your anti-art style?
About how I found my style and how you could find yours.
Alright, so we're talking about art styles today.
Imagine being able to draw in any style that you want. Not only that, but being able to craft your own unique art style, just as you want it, which gains you popularity and makes you stand out from the hundreds of thousands of artists that don't have a recognizable style. Well, it is possible. So in this video, I'm going to be doing studies of 5 of the most popular art styles out there. Well, first explaining how to use these styles, but then going deeper, at which point later in the video, I'll give you the harsh truth on how to actually draw in any style, and the step-by-step formula which you can use to craft your own. 1 of 5, here we go, Sam does arts. Everyone and their mum wants to draw like this guy, so this is how you do it. His proportions involve making the eyes larger and rounder, higher eyebrows, and a lower, smaller nose. You can see the inspiration from anime and from cats. He just uses the default brushes in most software for pretty much all of the colouring. Although for Ibis Paint users, the pen fade gives you that Sam does art style, and he uses the 6B pencil in Procreate for sketching. Then he might use the rake brush or halftone brush at the end to add some textures. Onto his colours. Everyone knows how he loves using really saturated colours, bright oranges and beautiful hues. How does he do it? And how can you do it too? Well, his skin colour usually starts out around here. He takes that colour, and in 3 steps he's able to find his shadow colour. He goes darker, slightly more saturated, and more red. But before he applies this, and I tell you where and how to apply it, he adds some red to the cheeks and lips. Now to apply the shadow colour correctly, his first step is to split the face into light and shadow based on where the light source is and the planes it will hit. He then blends all of the form shadows while leaving the cast ones hard to create the contrast and appeal in the painting. Already this is starting to look good, but it's still going to get so much better. Darken the shadows like this until the ambient occlusion. He adds the lights and highlights in the most reflective areas, which are here on the face. Finally, he has the beautiful orange transition between the light and shadow with a soft airbrush. I did make a full video on this where I go more in detail, but I basically just summarised it here, so no need to watch it. Alright, so how do I rate Sam does art style, and what can we learn? It has this stylized look that is just amazing with the beautiful colours that he uses, and the fact that these drawings can be done so fast. Before I rate this, what can I learn and steal into my own art? If you're not already using this orange transition, you're really missing out. But in general, it's how loose, free and expressive he's able to be without turning it into some abstract art. He's not getting all caught up in small details, scared to throw saturated oranges literally everywhere, or be really loose and fast with his colouring. Although when I try to incorporate this into my own art, it won't turn out quite like him. This ability to experiment is really powerful and can supercharge my progress. My rating, I would say, I'm giving this an S tier. 1 down, 4 to go. As I go through these, I'll be giving more and more advice on how you can draw in any style. Next up is Woolup. If you don't know who Woolup is, then you're really missing out on some amazing art. Woolup's a Chinese artist who just makes masterpieces that are so well rendered. So how can I do it? Well, starting out, the first thing I noticed when painting this, which really surprised me, was how greyed out all of their base colours are. And by the way, yes, I'm doing this one because it's the most popular. So you might be wondering, why would they make everything so grey? And in fact, Woolup even starts in grayscale, when it's clearly a vibrant and light piece. Well, the way I see it, there's one really big reason for this. The contrast that it creates. Now aside from that, I really can't do grayscale to colour, and working with a sketch this loose was really messing me up. Then although I got the sketch pretty good this time, you'll see I went completely wrong with the base colour, which was very difficult to fix. So the next key feature of Woolup's art style has to be the lighting. There's one thing I feel Woolup does really effectively, which is also a super underrated aspect of art in terms of how much of a difference it makes to the piece and how important it is. That thing is the bounce light. Everything in the piece is interacting with everything else, and all of the bounce lights are so strong. As I'm finding while painting this, all of these techniques take a lot of skill and are not easy to do, but when done right can have a massive impact. Adding a lot of it, while it may be effective, can wash out the piece with too much light everywhere, removing the contrast and making it very difficult to add variations in the shadows, as they need to be really well done. This is kind of what happened to me. You can hopefully see now why Woolup's style can be so effective but difficult to do right, at least for me. For all these reasons, I'm giving this style an A tier. The things I can steal into my own art would be the use of some more colour variations, and being able to transition softly and subtly between the hues of the skin, with the use of more blues and exaggerated but beautiful colours in the shadows, and all around the painting. I also like the strong, harsh lights in the way that Woolop did it, creating the contrast and making it look really high quality. Now, I did kind of save this piece at the end with the curves adjustment layer, like Woolop had been using the whole time. I had really underestimated it, so that's something that I can start to use a bit more from now on. Next up is Leonardo da Vinci. Didn't see that one coming, did you? I did just recently do a study of the Mona Lisa, so I thought I should share my thoughts on this style as well, and start to answer some of the questions I posed at the beginning of the video. So imagine this. Leonardo da Vinci was put into the 21st century, around this time we're in right now, and all of a sudden there's anime art and all the influences with their art styles, there's digital art and tons of other stuff too. Leonardo da Vinci would have no problem drawing in pretty much any of these styles. Yeah, it might take him some time to get used to the Procreate or Photoshop shortcuts, but he would be able to. Why? Because he has such a strong base in realism. I know it's a weird analogy, but the way I see it, I shouldn't even be worrying about art style until I can draw the thing that I want to stylize in its original form accurately. You see all these great artists with their unique styles and think that the reason they're so good is because of their style. But that's just the decorations on the outside of the house. It's what you notice when looking at it, but really it's their knowledge of the fundamentals that is what keeps the house standing. You can throw as much decorations as you want on a house that's fallen down, but it still won't look good. That's what allows them to draw in any style that they want. The difference is their knowledge of the fundamentals, shown by the fact that they can draw in realism. If you had as good a base as them, then you would be able to draw in whatever style you want. And we know this is true because just look at any of your favourite artists. Even those who draw really stylized, all can draw realistically too. So what if you do actually have the skill and want to make a good art style for your own brand or something like that? Well, there's a very simple but effective thing you can do right now, no matter what position you're in. If you're good at art or not, to create your own art style. Wait for it. Experiment. Yeah, that's it. Literally what I'm doing now. Look at your favourite artists and try to take a thing or two from one person and something else from someone else. Combine it all together with your own twist, and you can choose how you make your own art style. I've also found this is a really good way to improve your art in general. Now I've almost finished this painting as well, so for these last two, try to find at least one thing you can steal into your own art in the future to utilise what you just learned. Before we get onto those last ones though, I need to do a rating for this. I'm pretty much just rating realism as a style in of itself, so I guess B tier? I don't really know. It's a bit weird, but I did just talk a lot about it, so it's got to be pretty good to practice. My learning to steal would be the use of a really small hard brush to create the illusion of a lot of detail easily. Okay, last two. This one's on Cynics. He has a really cool art style, so let's see what we can learn. I'm doing his self-portrait, but since I'm drawing it, it's just a portrait. He exaggerates some of the proportions really well to create a mix of comic characters and realism. I was noticing the transitions in the colour and the shadows especially, and trying to get them correct. He has this style that involves a lot of that kind of thing, so it's really important for me to get it right. When I watched the video back later, he did talk about how that was one of the really important aspects for him as well. Now, although I felt I was getting the colour variations pretty decent, the perspective was not quite there. When I flipped the canvas I could clearly see some of the issues, but it was already rendered too much, which made it very difficult to change. Overall it looks pretty good, and the rendering is still nice. The key things to learn would be how well Cynics combines hard and soft edges. It's in a unique way that makes the piece have lots of interest, and it's nice to look at. His use of reds and pinks in the skin was nicely done, so that it's not too overpowering, and just adds to it, which is something I can apply to my drawings in the future. As for my rating of how well the style works for me, I'm giving it a B tier. I probably couldn't do this on my own if I wasn't copying the reference, and I get too caught up in all the small details when painting like this, even though I know Cynics doesn't paint in a way that promotes this. It's still a very nice style though, and something I want to study some more in the future. Last one is AI. I know this is a controversial topic, but it does make good art, so I think there's some things for me to learn from it. I know it can draw in a lot of different styles, but for this one I'm going to be copying this anime art style, as this style and variations on it have been one of the most used art styles from what I've seen. I originally get the proportions wrong with the sketch, and later have to change it even more. Luckily I do notice pretty much straight away how long the neck is, and that it's probably incorrect. This isn't too good to see though, because on top of other issues like the headphones being an absolute mess, it's pretty common to see some bad mistakes from the AI. If you're an experienced artist, it's probably fine as you can see it and avoid it, but for beginners it could be a real issue if they're copying AI art and also copying the mistakes. That kind of thing would just never happen if they were copying a pro artist. As I work on it a bit more, I start using the curves adjustment layer a lot, with the lasso tool to get the colour variations right, as I learned before from my study of Woolop. It makes sense that this helped, as Woolop's style is probably infused into this somewhere. I did find that this took a very long time to do. I was constantly having to smooth out the skin and work on fixing the colour variations, which was really tedious and caused the painting to take almost 7 hours. Add a quick background and it's finished. The AI art style, my key learning would be to try out some more audacious lighting scenarios, like the one that I used here, or some others that you can see the AI make. I tend to get stuck just drawing the same few over and over again, so doing some different ones could help me improve. Then for its rating, there's quite a few problems with following this art style. With the mistakes it makes and the time it took me, I'm not looking to copy this too much in the future. It does make some good art though, and the piece I made looks pretty decent, so it moves up from an F tier to a C tier.